Happy Fangirl Friday. My name's Anita Castellar, and this is Fangirl Friday Live. Thanks for tuning in. If you use your first time, hopefully you'll learn something and have some good times while you're at it. And if you've been following along, thank you again for tuning in every week and sharing some information and, unpacking the business behind fandom. So again, this is Fangirl Friday Live, and we're going to be talking to Frederick Jones this week. Come on in, Frederick. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Anita?
Good. So, I can see you have have your logo here behind me. So I wanted to start off with you introducing yourself, and also, what is Saturday M? What is MyFutprint Publishing?
Yeah, so MyFutprint Entertainment is a company I started 2013, and the idea was to bring diversity to the emerging world of manga. Anime manga right now, of course, is exploding, but it's been in that cycle since the late 90s with the arrival of Pokemon. And I've been a fan of it much longer than that. So as a person of color who had been involved in the video game industry for some time, it was important for me that this new, not new, but this more, this media that was starting to really catch on globally, which has not had the best track record with diversity. It was important for me that we see lots of different people in this new art form, this new genre, that we see people of color from Latin America, from Africa, from the Middle East, from different parts of Europe. Mainly, if for no other reason, and really just because of the fact that it's becoming so popular and because our representation is so low in it. I just thought I just sent a message that was problematic for younger fans of the material. So what we did at Saturday M is the brand that MyFutprint is over, that basically warehouses and unites all these independent creator-owned manga-style properties. So,
that's cool. So why don't we throw it back? Because you mentioned how you had some video game industry, experience and stuff. So let's throw it back to even before that. So did you have lots of fandoms growing up? Like, were you a fan of a lot of things growing up, or were you? What was that? And take us through that journey.
I was a black nerd before it was a cool thing.
Shout out to the Blurs, because there's actually a group called the Blurs, and they black nerds out there. So absolutely.
Yeah. And so I was in that before that was a proper thing. Yeah. I always tell the story that not tell the story, but I always joke about that. Like the women that I had crushes on when I was younger. I was the geekiest thing, with the lamest thing that I liked comic books and stuff. And now, right, those women have gone on to become professionals like yourself, or have children who are really into this stuff. So now it's all hip. But when I was young, it was not that cool. But I was into anime. The reason why Saturday M was so important to me is because I was into anime very early on. So, for example, we didn't have, in the 80s, right? Toonami didn't exist. Right. Streaming wasn't a thing. So it was, and it's funny when I talk to people my age, I'm 47, and when I talk to people my age, we all kind of immediately kind of have the same recollection, which is that you knew anime because it was just different, right? Like you see it, and it didn't matter where you saw it, right? It might be on the pack of a hobby kit, or it might be on like part of a coloring book or something. But the minute you saw the style, you knew this was something really different, and the stories were more mature. The characterizations were more nuanced. So as a kid, you recognized the difference between Hanna-Barbera and that. So, I was into that. And then later on in the late 80s, 90s, when the video game generation began, of course, a lot of video games came from Japan. So you had a lot of that material from Japan. So I've always had that in me. But of course, I grew up with superhero. My brother got me into Marvel Comics as a kid. So I've been into all of it. And in and out of it, right? As you get older, you work and you kind of get less involved with it. Then you get back into it. So, but yeah, it's been with me since I was in my teen years.
Yeah. And then you got into the video game industry. You did some work there.
Yeah.
And it moved along. So what made you do the jump, right? So from having a corporate job, working in the 9 to 5 or the 9 to whatever, because, nobody works 9 to 5, and working that to, jumping into publishing your own company and leaving all of that safety net.
Well, Well, I was in a unique position because I was with a company that got sold. So I had left. And so, I came back to North Carolina, which is where I'm from. And, I was really thinking about what I wanted to do. And be frank with you, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I tried my hand at, I had a pet food company I was working with an investor on. By the way, you're going to hear my dog. There's nothing I can do about that, folks. You're going to hear the dog. If you all have seen my live chats, the dog is there. But it was ironic because I had been traveling, of course, and around the world, and I had seen this thing that I was really passionate about when I was a kid. I had seen it taking off, and of course in the industry I saw it, but it was that disconnect once I got out of the industry, and I saw young Black kids really getting into anime manga, like Dragon Ball, and all that. When I would travel and I would see kids in other countries, not just into it, but like they could draw it, which was always the thing when you were a kid. When you see anime for the first time, you're like, "This is so cool! I want to emulate the style." No one ever tried to emulate, Bugs Bunny or Woody Woodpecker, but you would try to emulate anime because it was such a unique thing. And I was seeing these kids in other countries who were so good at it that it looked flawless, right? And so, of course, I started looking at, whatever I'm going to get into next. I wanted it to be something I was passionate about. I cared about representation from my time in the video game industry. And so it just became this thing where I was able to start looking at and connecting the dots and saying, there's an audience here. They're not being served with the diversity. And the talent is there to where they can produce content that does feature characters who look like us. And the question was, who is going to represent them? Who is going to give them a chance? Right. As you know, with intellectual property, so much of it is not just geared to the Western market, but it's favored as being established in the Western market. It's rare to be African and create an intellectual property that Americans go like, in the companies and so forth. So all of that just kind of came together, and that's what led me to create MyFutprint and Saturday.
So, not to get too personal, but I'd love to hear the business aspect of it, of how you launched that. There's a lot of issues, if folks don't know this, there's a lot of issues with financing and starting your own company and business loans and what have you for people of color. And, and a lot of times, there's that limits entrepreneurship, right? And that limits the ability to have your own company, be your own boss and such like that. So I'd love to understand how you did that. How did you get that process going?
So the short, first of all, everything you said is painfully accurate for those of us of color, right? And that's why I'm such a big fan of what you're doing with Fangirl, because I think that it's just so important for us to be involved in every facet of intellectual property and geekdom and entertainment, because just our experiences are so nuanced and unique and right. And just it's important for young people and it's important for the industry to have more voice that represents, a lot of folks who don't normally get represented and weren't normally represented for decades. So you're right. It's hard to start a company. So what I did was I took a different approach. First of all, I took the money out of my pocket, to start the company. So first of all, we had no investment. Now the readers, the watchers of your show might be probably curious to know about, how much money and stuff did it take. I had a receipt in my pocket and some lint. So that's what we started the company with.
I don't know anything about that.
No, so look, there's one thing I want to talk about from an innovative standpoint. There's one thing I want to talk about just from a brass tack standpoint. From a brass tack standpoint, anyone watching this who wants to start their own company, which I hope many of you do, that I'm a big champion of more voices in entertainment. You're going to have to get an LLC. So you have to get incorporated in a state that you're at. You're going to have to, draw up articles of incorporation and have, if you're going to have partners with you and so forth, you have to do all of that. And then, you don't have to trademark your stuff initially. You don't have to copyright your stuff initially because that will be copyrighted the minute you start producing it. What I tell people all the time that seems to get lost is that, people never read Facebook, the legal agreements on Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter. They are publishers, folks. So when you publish something, it is yours. Now, they have a right to use it, but it is yours. It is being seen potentially by tens of millions of people. This is no different than the printing press back in the early days. So if you are producing original ideas and you are distributing it on platforms like this video cast that Anita's doing, this is her property. It's on Instagram, but this is her property. So she's copyrighted. If someone tried to take this and use it on another platform and say, hey, this is cool, Anita can take them to court. She hasn't got to copyright the show specifically. So I'm going to get that out the way. There's some brass tacks things to do. Incorporate your business.
Good info.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then likewise go and get a bank account, get a business bank account. Don't DBA it, folks. LLC, get a bank account.
And don't connect your own personal finances.
Exactly. Now, on the innovative side of things, there are two things I care about. The people who've seen me, I've talked about this for 8 years. One is diversity, and the other is legacy.
Right.
Legacy cannot be conferred when you owe somebody else. And so what we've tried to do is create a system where the company, first and foremost, is owned by the people who do the work. So this is actually very old school of what Google did. When Google got started, they were throwing out equity at everybody. There's a famous story, if you Google it, famous story about the masseuse. I don't know if you heard about this, the masseuse. She got equity. They were like, we're going to really need some people to relieve the stress because we're constantly programming. They gave masseuse, and masseuse is a multimillionaire today. She is a multimillionaire today. So
all of us need to be that masseuse.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there was a chef like that as well. But I mean, like Google didn't have the money, right? They didn't have the money. When they got started, they didn't have the money. So they were like, look, if you come in and help us do X, Y, Z, we'll give you equity. And of course, it's Silicon Valley, and there people took risks, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, there was an infrastructure there to make that work. We decided to do something very similar. So when I started the company, the very first creators who I approached about joining Saturday AM are all owners in the company. And then the very first person that we got after we launched the magazine, a female artist, fantastic, named Andrea Doni from Hungary. She's an owner of the company. Mm-hmm. We're about to go to our next round of our board meetings and so forth to discuss expanding our equity. And we're going to be bringing in additional artists, some staffers, and so forth. So it took us a while the company started making money initially. Immediately. As that's going into your website and your hosting and all the other fees. So we were paying for so much stuff that we eventually started to, a couple of years into it, started to get to a point to where partnerships with companies, and I know you'll get to that later, but partnerships, advertising, ad revenue, licensing, and then of course the magazine, which has always been generating revenue from the very beginning. All those things contributed to us now being in a position where we can actually offer larger financial support to a lot of our folks. But initially we were just equity. It was all equity.
That's great. I mean, it's a great story to have because, you're, like you said, legacy can't be conferred if you owe somebody else. I mean, I love that because it's difficult though, and when you mean by legacy, let's clarify legacy. I'm not going to assume for you. What do you mean by legacy?
I mean, so the creators, if you create a great property, we've got a number of folks who have some really wonderful properties that you see, behind me. You want to tell your kid you develop that. You want that property in the future. If Warner Brothers makes a movie of our content, do it, Warner Brothers. We want that young man. So this big blue guy here, that's from an artist from New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Again, like the chances of this young man who's extraordinary getting to America and getting discovered and having a chance to create that, but we're in a position to make that happen for him. And now, he's had T-shirts. He's got a toy, right? He's got a toy. So you guys can see it's got a toy. So we want legacy to be conferred, not just financially, to where you're constantly generating revenue from your idea. But we want legacy to exist in the sense that, your family has rights to that legacy. Edgar Rice Burroughs and Arthur Conan Doyle. And I was just reading about one the other day I forgot about, the estate of Lupin, the character Lupin, which is that great Netflix show right now with
lots of love out in social media.
Yeah, exactly. So that to me, that's the legacy we want to confer. We want people to have that legacy. And if you're a staffer with us and you've done the work and we've discussed equity positions with you, then the legacy may not be something you created, but it will be legacy of, hey, I was part of it, just like that masseuse. I was one of the early employees at Google.
Right.
What did you do?
You're part of the support structure.
You're
part of the support structure, right? Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So who are some of the artists that you worked with, and who do you work with today, and what kind of pieces of content are they creating?
So there's several. We have about 36 creators across the world, as far away as New Zealand, as I mentioned, many in Africa, which has been so very special to me, an emerging presence in Latin America, a presence in the Middle East, Eastern and Western Europe. The creators that are probably our most important in terms of just the work that they do, because obviously some of our creators are doing multiple things, they're not just creating comic. White Manga, young man. In fact, I did a live chat with him earlier this week, the 2 nights ago. He's our superstar. He's legit a superstar. When I met him for the first time, I remember telling the guy who introduced me to him, Raymond Brown, who's one of our other important figures, or telling him, I said, that kid's going to be a star. I've been doing this a long time. I can see it, and that kid's going to be a star. And sure enough, he has. And again, it's still got a ways to go. But for him to be where he's at today with his own toy, with graphic novels, he is leagues ahead of so many artists you see on Instagram. So White Manga, Raymond Brown, creator of Bully Eater, which is this figure here. Great series. Raymond is one of our most important figures in the company. He helps me basically run the company. Andrea Donis, I mentioned, a young creator from Hungary. She's got 2 series with us. One of them is a series that we launched for our brand new LGBTQ magazine, and it features a female sports team. And so it's great because we have a chance to really explore sports, the struggles of female athletes, particularly here in America. So I'm really excited about that. Mitch Proctor from the UK, Jay Oden from the United States. He does a series called Hammer for us. He just had a book come out with Oni Press called Lemonade Code, which is fantastic.
Wow.
So there's a host from J.R. DeBar from Saturday PM, Pop Sule Fall, who is a young man just brand new from us, as well as Venus Bambiza, 2 young men. Pop Sule is from Senegal. He came to us. We launched his first comic, and he is, while he's doing that, he's also at Yale, getting his master's degree at Yale. And then Venus Bambiza, who just joined us, he is from South Africa and super talented. And so again, I could go down the list. Fred Torninger from Denmark, just Sama, who's from Saudi Arabia. She worked with us in the past. We've even worked with creators.
You don't hear of a lot of talent coming out of Saudi Arabia. I'm sure there's plenty of talent there. Don't get me wrong. It's just that we don't hear it in the West coming out of there, especially women.
And so I'm so happy you said that, Nita, because really, right? Like, that's the point, right? That, like what you just said, that's the entire ethos of Saturday AM, right? I couldn't have said that better. We're talking about creators from places that you're like, I didn't know creators existed in Senegal, right? And we both know, of course they do, but like the fact that the media so rarely covers it, the fact that companies rarely even look in that direction, that's just such a special thing for me personally, to be able to have a conversation with you and you ask me and I can actually name names. So that really at the core is what we're about. But yeah, we have tons of creators.
And I love, being able to have a place and you're giving them that place, and this is just secondary support really, but, giving them that place and that platform to be able to actually be able to have a name and get their artwork out there and get their, stories to be told and stuff. So, you started off as a digital publishing company though, right? Yeah. So tell us about the infrastructure of like digital publishing, but then also, the various brands, because you have 3 brands now.
Yeah. Well, we have more, but yeah. So, coming from the video game industry, which of course is digital in production, but, at the time, at least when I was in the industry, was physical, right?
All the discs.
The discs and all of that. So my career trajectory had been that I graduated from USC Chapel Hill and then went to Rap Collins, which is a digital ad agency, a part of Omnicom. and we had the PlayStation account. So I was part of the team to help to launch a lot of the first generation PlayStation products into North America. And then from there, we went to to Gathering with Developers, which is the big video game development at the time, really rogue. Their office was in a church. They were called God for short. Their office was in a church. And it was just one of the coolest experiences, just because it was just rock and roll. And I got a chance to see, I was in the corporate structure. Then I got a chance to see like the anti-corporate structure, right? Then they got bought by Take-Two, and then I went to work. I had gone to a few development houses, and that wasn't for me. But then I ended up Blockbuster Corporate, back in the corporate realm. It was, really, really at home. Really enjoyed that for a number of years, and discovered a lot of big properties there, like Yu-Gi-Oh! I was a big proponent of making Yu-Gi-Oh! Big in the United States because we carried it at Blockbuster, and that exploded category. I say all that to say that entire experience made you dislike physical product. The idea of, especially when I was at Blockbuster, because I was in charge of for the video game category, the segment that I managed, I was in charge of, 5,976 stores. And when you're sitting there, you're like, wait a minute, like, we got to worry about product being shipped here and arriving there, and then it's not selling. Is a store doing what they're supposed to do? Are they putting it? Are they facing the product in the right direction? Are people not seeing? Are they looking at this instead of this? Now I know it's probably going out of the frame, but yeah,
those are all factors when you're displaying your product. Physical sales and what have. That's actually a big factor in that.
It's a massive factor, and it affects all sorts of things that that have helped me greatly with Saturday AM. But the average person doesn't know about things like co-op and MDF and all these things that affect how the product is treated. And then what you are as a vendor are responsible for if it doesn't sell.
Right.
So all of that, had really soured me at the time, right? At the time, on trying to go into physical. Not to mention, by the way, that at that time, when I began to seriously consider Saturday AM, we were coming off of, the debut of the iPad. iPhone had been around for a little while. The App Store had come into fruition. So you were seeing, for me, who had always been a part of digital on some level, you were seeing the advent of what looked like a really new, amazing market opportunity. And so digital just became something that I was obsessed with, continue to be obsessed with. Also, if for no other reason than the fact that you can reach anybody immediately. And so that was just a thing. And so that became our core focus. I can tell you that when we started Saturday AM, for example, none of the technologies that exist today existed then. So we literally had a Frankenstein system to produce what we ended up doing, which is a digital magazine that could be distributed globally. We were doing this here, doing that there. We used this thing to distribute it, even though it wasn't meant for that. And we in a lot of ways, a lot of companies have come after us. They don't always give us the credit, but they come after us, and I always laugh at the fact they've copied the thing that we put forth. And I'm like, don't copy this. This was a mess. This was a total mess. So that's what happened. So
when you say come after you, let's just be clear, right? It's not in a bad way that they're coming after you. Because in licensing, when you say people come after you, that's a whole bad thing to have. But when you say they came after you, they followed your footsteps, and you're saying don't necessarily follow these footsteps, but really, these are the processes we put in place because we had to, right? That's really what we mean by come after you.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, I mean, I'm if you even watches my video cast, listen to my podcast, I'm always very blunt. I believe that if you care about the future generation of young people, you have to be very specific. You have to be unflinching in your realism. So yeah, I mean, come at us in all the ways, right? I mean, we've had folks. We were the first ones to do this. So the folks who you see now who are talking about, webcomics and diverse webcomics, they came after us. They were inspired by us. They were in the group trying to join us. So that's just the reality. But we had an incident the other day, and it's something that has been interesting to watch. And this is one of the aspects of digital, where a young man who we didn't accept his product recorded a video, really attacking the group and so forth. And we've been attacked over the years for various things. My commitment to diversity, that I'm Black, that we supported LGBTQ stuff. I mean, we've been attacked. Obviously, we've been attacked. And again, it's never anything too crazy, but but this young man did concern me, and it's something that we were making a pointed effort to address in 2021 because I was concerned for his safety.
Oh, wow.
I felt that he, you see people make these discussions with social media. We saw it with the Marvel and DC movies. We've seen it with Star Wars movies, right? Right. Social media outrage that happened about Rey and, she's an SJW and this, that, and the other. And
toxic fandom, those types of topics that come up. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what that's our mission in 2021, right? Is to address toxic fandom, is to really make it clear that you cannot be a fan of ours and then have that sort of mentality.
Right.
You cannot go on social media and believe that harassment and destructive behavior because you're bored, because your ego has gotten out of whack and you think that, I want all the excitement. I want to say things to generate excitement. You can't be a fan of ours and want to behave like that. So, we had announced the other day we're launching a new app. We have an app. We're launching a second app, and this app will be devoted to younger creators so that we can really try to get them early. And it's something, by the way, they've been wanting this for years. They've been wanting a chance to, like, I'm 13 or I'm 14. Well, you see, how do I get my comic out there? Right, so we want to provide them tutorials, supplies, like they can win supplies. They can do like fun art contests. We've got a group of sponsors who are willing to support this initiative, but it's important.
That's really great.
Yes, it's important that we address toxic fandom because it's getting a bit out of hand. And I think that, as we heard the other day from the gentleman in Atlanta when he was talking about the stuff that then led to January 6th. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get killed. We've got to stop this idea of social media. And I hope the social media companies do something about it too, of really trying to provide help with these kids and stop trying to promote the toxic behavior because that promotes engagement. Like that should not be what gets you engagement, right? So anyway, I'm sure I went.
You kind of address two things there, right? It's a toxic fandom and trying to create a safe space. So it's a balance, right? Trying to also create a safe space for fandom, for those fans. You're part of a community. That's an ongoing thread that I have across, multiple discussions that I have with various people is that, that's the whole premise of fandom, right? Is that's why we invest in it as fans of whatever genre or topic that we are fans of. You're part of a community. You want to be part of that community. It's usually a safe space for you to express yourself. And then it's a reciprocal between the content and, back into the brand. And then the fans and the community become almost like brand ambassadors. So it's kind of like a cycle there. The other thing that I think is interesting, though, that you're addressing is, a pipeline. What you didn't really phrase it that way, but that's what I'm phrasing it as. Is creating like a pipeline of talent and catching them early, and really being able to then channel some of these energies that may lead to other things, into more of a positive outlet, which could be art, it could be storytelling, it could be, whatever, digital production, all of these types of things that are related to the fandoms, so I think that's great.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Once again, everything you said, you framed it very, very well. And just to go a step further to that as well, like, I think, I know you and I've had some discussions about this, offline that, part also of the journey for those of us who care is to make sure that we provide the experiences for up and coming people who could be future marketing executives. Right. It's like, it's not all about creating comics. This thing I talk about all the time. It's not about creating comics. It's about, I told my guys, I told White and all of them from the very beginning, I said, be a fan of the business. Don't be a fan of the content, right? Be a fan of the content on your own time. But if you're doing this, you want to make career of it, be a fan of the business. Mm-hmm. And so from that standpoint, to your point, we want to try to create a pipeline. And the beautiful thing too, and one of the things, again, I think sometimes that, again, the toxic aspect really misses that, Saturday was not worried about getting every creator. We couldn't get every creator if we wanted to. What I'm saying? Like, we're not set up for that. So I love the fact that there are groups that are popping up and want to do what we do and want to take us on and so forth. That's what it should be. That's capitalism. But at the same time, though, what I care about is that there is a better way to get these young people in the right mindset with the right experience to develop so that they can be an effective person for another group or for us or for a major corporation like a Disney or Lucas or Disney, Lucasfilm, Marvel, Warner Brothers, AT&T, and so on. So again, it requires us to actually care about making sure these young people get the experiences that are relevant. Because as you said before, the investment's not there, at least not yet. Like we haven't seen huge amounts of it in the urban community or the people of color community for people of color. And then conversely, it's not just the investment, it's the opportunity to get internships.
Yeah.
Right. Very few of us can afford an internship.
It's very difficult. It's a cycle because, success also begets success, and so, if you're a person who has had an opportunity to, kind of get exposed to things that you normally wouldn't. I mean, I share this, I'm going to share my own little personal experience as well. But, like my mom told me out of love, told me to quit my job at Disney to go get a job at the post office. And, God bless her, but she didn't understand what she was saying to me. She didn't understand the impact that could have. She didn't really, and the reason why though, is because she didn't understand what I was doing.
That's right.
She didn't understand my job. She didn't understand. She still doesn't. She just knows that the grandkids are okay and the bills are paid. And that's fine. But coming from a community, where, because I'm Puerto Rican, first generation in the States, my mom, my parents came over. But point is that, they don't understand what licensing or, consumer products or toys or any of these things that we're doing, comics, they just know that you're some strange person doing something. But you should, get this job with the government because it signified stability, right? And that is primary in their focus. So when you're growing up in that type of environment, entrepreneurship, what's that word, right? Like being a business owner, that's scary. How do you get money? That's for rich people. That's for those people over there. That's not for us. Right.
That's right.
And so I think, the app is an avenue, the Saturday AM, the Saturday PM, Saturday brunch. I'm naming all your brands here that you, so we make sure we get them out there. But that content creation, but then the people behind it, the person who's doing the digital marketing, the person who's, writing the copy, the copywriter, the person who's, marketing it, the person who's drawing and all that stuff. Coding, right? Those are all part of the fandom. That's all the business. And those are all jobs related to, you don't have to be the artist. You don't have to be the person who draws the toy. You don't have to be that person. You could be part of that and still have a career and a pathing. And those of us who have had the opportunities that have presented to us, or someone who had a mentor, I had some great mentors along my way that have, they didn't do the work for me. They just created an opportunity and cracked the door, right? I had to kick it through. And I'm sure that that's how you had your experience. And so those folks who are on the way, whether you be woman, man, person of color, whatever, everybody has a story. But, if we have that opportunity now, we have a platform, we have a way to now crack the door for somebody else and also educate our own folks, on these are jobs, real paying jobs. So you could be successful. You can be, you can have a career, you can pay your bills, you can raise a family, send people to college and do all these other things. That's not for them. That's for you, just for us too, and I think you being a visible person, visible, doing that physically and being successful, I think that's great. And now you've got a platform and you've brought in all these other artists, and now I'm sure they're doing the same thing for their folks in their community.
One of our top artists, a couple of our artists, but our top artist, White Manga just mentioned, again, I discovered him, very young kid, was, doing this stuff and everything, was, doing little art contests here and there and getting, some online love, but that was just online love, right? It wasn't like, like I told him a long time ago, son, nobody paid you for, it doesn't cost me anything to hit a like button.
Yeah.
Converting that to this, to the books and the toys, that's a different animal. That's a real fan. And but now, he's got staff members of his own who are helping him produce his content. And so you're right, it's a continuum. And I just want to say, to your point, I have been there, sister. I ran I laugh at this all the time. I ran $100 million business at Blockbuster, and when I came back, the idea. It was like, oh, well, what are you going to do now? Like you said, the post office hired. Like, what part did you miss about what I did? And but the thing I always talk about in relationship to that, to your point, I thought you said that perfectly about how your mother saw it, is the reason our folks don't see it. Because let's be clear, and this, what I'm about to say, you and both folks watching us will know. if you and I play the sport, you ain't never gonna have that confusion, right? Your parents, they may not know the sport, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But when it comes to creating entertainment, when it comes to the business of entertainment, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you
wasting your time?
Yeah. Are you gonna make any money at it? Did so-and-so pay you?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it is different.
You can't put food on the table drawing comics. What's that?
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a thing. It's a continuum, and it's important for voices like yours and the stuff that we're trying to do, and anyone else who's in this space to continue to be vocal, to continue to put it out there, to continue to have success, so that we can begin to change the cultural aesthetics of what entertainment looks like and who can be a part of the entertainment industry.
And I want to highlight, so I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk about who are some of the supporters of Saturday AM and the creators that you're working with. Some of the folks who have been investing into that vision, such as your toy partner. I think you've got some, apparel collaborations. Let's talk about those guys, because, let's highlight some of that support.
Sure. So when we got started, it took us about 3 years to get partnerships like that.
By the way, not a long time. From my opinion, that's actually quite quick.
Well,
it feels long, but it's quite quick.
That's nice to hear. I wouldn't have known that. I didn't know that. So, but it took us a couple of years. The thing that broke through for us, Anita, was an event we did called March Art Madness, which we're doing next month. It's a gigantic art tournament based on, because I went to UNC Chapel Hill, so it's based on March Madness, the college basketball event.
Yeah.
But we brought artists all over. They got to compete with each other because, again, about this toxic thing, what these kids want so desperately is validation and legitimacy.
Right.
And the question is, who is giving them validation and legitimacy, right? The better the group, the better these kids have a chance of becoming like you and I.
Right.
And so we started this event to highlight that, to say, hey, draw art and draw your favorite characters, and we'll talk about what was cool and stuff. And if you win, we'll give you $50. Then the next year expanded. And then the third year, we got a sponsor who was like, I'll buy him an iPad. We're like, sold.
Yeah.
So it started to grow from there. Now that company's called Plast. They made a software called Comic Draw for giving people a chance to create comics digitally. So since then, we've worked with companies in Brazil, the UK. I was just on a call with the UK right before this call started with a group that we're hoping to work with. I'm pretty sure we'll start working with them that make video games. We have the toy company, like you said, Jabberwocky, which was really special for us because the chance, I don't know why I keep showing that one, because that one just fades away. This one, it fades
Hold it straight up to the camera. Hold it straight up to the camera.
Away. Yeah, they all fade away. There we go. That's what the toy looks like, folks. You can see it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, you were featured in Pop Insider for that too, though.
What's that?
That was featured in Pop Insider, right? Didn't it make it? Or I know Saturday AM made it, but I thought the toy line also made it on one of the holiday gift guides.
It absolutely did. And so we were at Toy Fairs where you and I met, and the young woman who I need to get back to, actually, has been writing me, she loved it. I saw it. I saw her playing with it. I was like, oh man, this could be a hit. This could be great. Yeah. Obviously, COVID hit, and so we had tremendous response to the toys. Jabberwocky, the toy company, did. It was difficult with retail at that point, and still is a little bit. But Hot Topic has carried it. We've been very excited about that. We're at Comics Pro this week. Later today, I've got to go back to that virtual con, which is a comic book retailer show, so we can continue to talk about the toys. And we've got a line of apparel that we're doing. We've got a physical magazine we're doing, which is, I can't show anything on the site, but it's a physical magazine that is kind of like your traditional Shonen Jump, which is the Japanese manga magazine. But this one is built for a Western audience, built for a global audience, but with a Western mentality. So we've got creators from all over the world. We got, again, creators from Saudi Arabia, from Greece, from all over the place. We have an interview with Karen Berger, who was a big executive at DC. Steve Aoki, the DJ, is that in there. So and that magazine also got a Pop Insider award. We couldn't get it out in time because we had to print it, and we ran into that issue at the end of the year. But it's going to come out here the next month, and so we're excited at the retail space. You had asked earlier about digital and retail, and I just want to talk about retail from that standpoint because we got great partnerships, art supply companies as well, like the guys who make markers and pens, like Spectrum Noir, Soccer of America. We're about to do a project with them this weekend.
Yeah, they make great pens.
Beautiful pins. We're one of the only companies that is not Japanese to have a direct relationship with two major Japanese companies, Celsius, which makes Clip Studio Paint, one of the number one software for making comics and manga. And then Sakura, we're developing a relationship with currently. We're working through the American branch. We're working with them currently, and we're really excited about where that can go. Big contest this weekend. If you check that out on our Instagram for Sakura. But we decided to do things like the toys and the shirts and the apparel, and the magazine, because, at the end of the day, I think the one thing with digital that does cause some problems is that there is a magic that's lost. I talk about this a lot with young people, in particular when it comes to just their behavior about things. Some things in life, as you know, as someone who's married and so forth, there's something special about watching something grow over time. Yeah. Social media, the internet is all about instant. It's instant. So everything has to happen quickly. It has to happen now. And that creates a very complicated. A little bit of an ADD mentality. ADD mentality. And which of course can lead to the toxic things we talked about. So I think it just really started to speak to me, the idea of having product that you can see in stores that you had to feel like. And by the way, some of the products we're going to have, like the magazine and so forth, they're only going to be available for at retail. You can buy them e-commerce, but they're not going to be digitized, right? There's no digital element to them. So you have to go to the store to get them, or you have to order it and wait. And just that idea of you going to a store and seeing if it's there, or that idea of ordering something and waiting for it to arrive. Right. There's a magic there that I think that we've lost. And I really want to try to get back to that. Yeah, I want to get back to that. I think there's something special with young people to see that and experience that. So that's why we push into that direction. It also, of course, helps to see that logo behind you in several places. Right.
No, I think, there's usually that brand extension, now is the technical logo that goes, or lingo, I should say, that goes with what you're saying. It's like, the brand extension, the peripheral items that go with the central brand, but also, it's moving and evolving the business. But, from a fan perspective, now you get to lifestyle out, you get to show, kind of what you're a fan of, and having those physical pieces like the Jabberwocky toys, or like, the t-shirts and, all of the magazine itself. If you see somebody on a subway or a train or something, well, I don't know about all of us on a train nowadays, but if you happen to be on a train and you happen to see somebody reading a magazine that says, Saturday AM or PM across the banner there. And if you happen to read that same magazine, you kind of know, right? And you're part of that community, you're in the know. Give that t-shirt, you're like, hey, I see you, kind of thing. You don't always have to shout it out, but that's your way of projecting what you're a fan about. And then that's, someone else receiving and knowing we already know each other without really knowing each other. Right. Because we're a fan of something similar. So that's like really the whole premise of licensing and consumer products. And, it's not only propagating the brand, but also giving people an opportunity to experience those brands in a moment that's important to them, but the way that it's important to them, right? So you can give them a t-shirt, you give them figures, dolls, board games, whatever it is that they, that you want to give a variety of, items to them so that they can experience it in a different way, but also share it with their community as well. Their own, their in-home community. So, that's kind of like what we do on our side, but you guys are creating the content. So, everybody works together to kind of create that experience for everybody, and whether it's digitals or physical. So I'm really excited to see your, how your new publishing venture comes to fruition, your physical publishing. It's interesting to see how you've gone from digital to physical. Some people went the other way around, right? Like most people go the other way around.
Yeah. When we talked about it, the corporate side of me, right? Because most of the folks in our company are young, right? So I'm 47. The average age of the person in Saturday is 20 years younger than me. 23.
That's me. I'm in that age room.
It's exciting for us, of course, to get to that point, to have the product there. But I think more importantly than that is just that, again, like I get joy seeing our creators see things happen that they never would have dreamed could have happened, right? Like, we have to remember that there are several digital platforms. Saturday AM is growing, but we're not as big as the biggest companies, right? You got companies like Webtoon from Korea. You got other groups out there, Comixology, which is owned by Amazon. And we're working hard to develop what we're trying to develop. We're not trying to be like anyone else. We're trying to develop our own space. But the thing about it, though, is that on some of the other platforms that are out there, one of the challenges is that you are just like on Instagram, for example, right? There are a billion people who use Instagram. There are a billion people who use Instagram. Right? So you've got, it's really hard to get discovered. And it's really hard to imagine what you're doing going to another level. So, for us, for me personally, and then for what we're doing, it's just such a special thing. Every little thing we do becomes a big event, and it becomes something that we just become really just I won't say emotional, but we just become really just humbled by the opportunity to see our stuff extending into other directions and gaining more and more fans, because these creators never would have assumed that. And be frank, on the big platforms like in Instagram, the reason they're so big, right, is that anybody can join, right? We're not that group. It's not easy to be a part of Saturday AM, Saturday PM, Saturday brunch, and so forth. You got to want it. And even then, you got to want it even more to stay in it, right? Because it's your property. So no matter what we do from a marketing standpoint, licensing, so forth, it's your property. If you decide to take it somewhere else, you can. And we've, over the years, we've kept all of our big guys. They've always, been committed to what we're doing. But there've been some creators who felt the grass was greener elsewhere, and we champion that. And so it's, for us, it's just great to see creators getting a chance to live their dream and experience the opportunity to see their product in different places in different ways that they never would have assumed. At the end of the day, and this is one of the core things about Saturday AM, is that we make comics. Period. We make comics. I think what I see often with this kind of short-termism sort of immediate thing, you see a lot of folks who get into the space that we're in because they really want to make anime. They really want to toy. And so there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not the way we function. We are very much of the mindset, as we talked about before, about great things take time. And the journey is what's beautiful about that. So for us, we're focused on the creators making great content. We put our effort resources into that. We want the comics to get better. We want to win some awards. We want to keep doing the things that can make them proud. And then the joy, of course, is seeing them then see their property transition to an apparel or, that's I can't tell you how humbling that is. It's awesome. So
what's next for you guys? What would be either a wish list, or what would be a big project that you would want to kind of check off the bucket list next time?
So, the number one thing. So again, I lay out, I was trying to say a few minutes ago, I lay out our plans way in advance. I do, the folks who work for me are much younger, but I still have that corporate mentality. So I literally will lay out what we're going to do for the year. I lay out our big end of the year sort of project. I lay out the partnerships, and we work to that. Now, obviously, it doesn't always work that way, as you know, because constantly, constantly, we're constantly trying to deal with things. And then, of course, if one thing happens that's out of whack, it throws everything off of whack. And that's what happened with COVID and towards the end of this year with some of the stuff we were dealing with, one of our members was dealing with. But the Holy Grail, there are three things people have always asked for with us since we started. One was an app. And we just recently debuted the app last year. So we're 8 years old. We just debuted the app last year. We took our time. We researched. We made sure we had it right. And now we've got one of the highest rated apps in the space.
And that's the Saturday AM app, right?
It's Saturday AM Global Comics. Yeah, it's a fantastic app. Saturday AM Global Comics. Over 150 issues of content are there. You can download the app on iOS or Android, and a lot of it is free. The content in the app, a lot of it's free. Obviously, if you pay, you can unlock more stuff.
Right.
But it's a great experience. And the reviews, we've been really humbled at the support we've gotten for it. The second thing they've asked for, of course, is a video game. And so that we were close to making happen by our fifth year. And no, I'm sorry, by our third year. And an old partner of mine in the video game industry, but he ran out of money. And so we had to go back to the drawing board with it. So we're hoping we can make that happen. We have
any video game folks watching.
Exactly. And then the big one, of course, is anime. And I think the challenge with anime, one of the, like I said, we constantly get, not constantly, but, there's always the folks, and I'm sure you see this. Well, I don't know if you see it because you're slightly different sector of the industry, but I get it a lot. Where again, as a 47-year-old man with my experience, I'll get young people who are like, like, Mr. Jones, you're doing it wrong. Like, you got to do this. You need to animate first. I'm like, okay, thank you, Timmy. It's like it's like to them it's so simple. Just make that anime happen, man. You'll sell lots of books. And I'm like, son, you're not wrong, but boy, you're wrong. Like it takes a lot of time to get that anime up.
Any entertainment companies want to dabble in anime, this is the way to do it. This is where they find the content.
People have approached us, and we're still, kind of working through it, because I get the key point, Anita, is that it is about the legacy. So we don't want to do anything that we feel like compromises that legacy. We're not going to do anything to compromise that legacy. So even if it's getting an anime deal done, and the anime comes out, looking not what we expected, we don't want that.
Yeah. Well, yes, I think there's a lot more, only onward and upward from here.
Yeah.
And as you probably know, these times go pretty quick. So we're going to wind it down. Okay. Unfortunately, you can come back and visit anytime. Come share your new ideas and your new projects. You've got the March fan art contest happening next month.
Yep.
You've got the physical publication coming out, which is really a big deal. And hopefully more retailers will pick it up and continue on forward for this year. You're going to be continuing on with your digital publications through your apps and, of course, online, and you've got your website going and stuff. So tell us how to find you and where can we find all of this content and follow along all the other creators as well.
So you can find us on Saturday AM. Our website is www.saturday-am.com. And we'll be updating our website soon, by the way, folks, so check that out. Our app is, of course, you can find it on iOS or Android at Saturday AM Global Comics. So just type in Saturday AM, it'll come up. The Saturday AM Global Comics, the name of the app. You can download the app directly from our site at app.saturday-am.com. And the last thing I would say is that, again, we have the second app coming, and I do want to make sure we give a shout out to that. It's going to be called Pilot Manga by Saturday AM. And of course, again, the entire idea is to give young people a place where they can go, be completely supported and respected, and have a chance in a positive environment to check out exclusive content, to create or participate in contests to create new content, to win prizes, and to be surrounded by people who genuinely care about what happens with you. Doesn't mean you're going to have a comic. Doesn't mean that we're going to, make you a star. None of that stuff it means, but it does mean that you can go there and feel like you're part of something that's not there to make fun of you or anybody else. And that's the key thing about it. It's going to have some great original comics too, from a number of exciting new creators. So great group. And I'm really excited about that new episode.
So maybe we'll have you come back and you can talk. We can do a little demo on how to use the app and how somebody can, get their own creation going, and whether it goes into something else, that's another matter, but it's a tool, and it ends to the means for the creativity.
I love that. Yeah, I would love that.
That'd be great. Cool. All right. So again, thank you for everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Frederick, for joining me. This is such a great conversation. I know there's always so much we could always be talking about. So again, like I said, please come on back. Any of the creators, if they would like to come on, obviously everybody's welcome. That would be amazing to talk about their creativity, their art, and their storytelling. Thank you all for following along. This is Fangirl Friday Live. My name's Anita Castelar, and thank you for joining us every week. If you haven't, come on back next week. We've got something else coming really great for next week. And 1 p.m. Eastern, we're here every week. So Fangirl Friday Live, and the YouTube replay will be up on this in a few days. So look for it next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.